Pop finish this recording shit.
All
All
right,
right, so
thanks.
no problem, no problem. All right, so what I'm gonna send. You know that there's a data book scan, right? Thing.
Yeah.
It's in the first data book, and it talks about how. Hold on, I'm gonna send it to the thing. But
Yeah, I know.
basically, it's talking about how
Strongest opponent.
Sasuke, that Gaara's ever fought, and
Well,
we already know that Gaara fought Fifth Gate Lee. So
okay, so let's break this down here. I'll send this scan because I have it.
okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I have it too, but I'm trying.
So
to
it says, Gaara, who had found himself at a disadvantage during the fight with his strongest opponent Sasuke, wished his full body possession. Do you know what do you know what the full body possession is?
Yeah, the Shikaku. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know when he does that? He does that after he gets stabbed by the Chidori.
Hmm?
Okay.
He starts screaming and shit.
Yeah, and he
right?
on his hands and knees.
And then they go into the forest and they fight. Right, that's the full body possession. Okay, and it's also backed up, right? Because it's when he goes into a shell, right?
Okay.
Okay, so when it says that he's at a disadvantage during the fight, it's talking about Sasuke using the Chidori and stabbing the shit out of him, right? And also, this is backed up by the fact that he's at an inherent disadvantage because lightning is greater than sand or earth.
Yeah.
Naruto, right?
Okay.
Which just also backs it up, right? And that's what put him at a disadvantage, right? Because we know prior to this, Sasuke was only doing about as good as Weightless Lee.
Yeah.
So, actually, I would say he did worse than Weightless Lee.
All right, so you're saying all right, so that's all right. So that covered the disadvantage part. I agree with them, but still not attacking the statement where it says that he's the strongest.
That's why he's considered as the strongest opponent, right? Because we know in Naruto,
all right, so
a lot of times they consider
the
strength a combination of things, kind of like how Orochimaru does.
Okay.
Yeah, and if anything, right? Even if I steelman, it was talking about raw strength. We know in terms of speed and shit and strength, Sasuke barely does better than Lee. At times, he's even doing worse than Lee, right? Because the initial blitz, Sasuke, when he attempts to blitz Gaara is still able to perceive him, right? But when Lee blitzes him, right when Lee takes off his weights, Gaara can't even perceive Lee. Just perception.
My counter argument to that would be that we know that Gaara's gotten stronger over time, right? He's been fighting other shinobi in between the Chunin exams and all that.
Okay, but why is that gonna make him why does it make him stronger?
Because the more you fight, the more stronger you get. That's just the way.
Well, okay, when the only people we know Gaara fought were some he just bitched down some fodder ass shinobi. So I guess I would give you characters could get stronger if they're fighting an opponent that's stronger than they are or around their level, because then they have to push themselves further than they would have to before and actually grow as a fighter. But if you're just bitching down some random fodder, then I don't think that that's gonna make you any stronger.
All right, that's fair. All right, so what about if I said that Gaara was in a more, what's the word I'm looking for? A more I'm not sure if this is the right word, but distraught mental state, right? And I'd say that we've seen the more messed up Gaara's mindset is, the more stronger he is. Basically, because he's gaining more Shikaku's chakra, right? So
well,
I'd say
that's only the case when he actually assumes full body possession. Because when he assumes full body possession, he actually does get amped, right? But when he's just angry and shit, I would say that's actually nerfing him because he doesn't think like he usually would. You can actually see this throughout the Sasuke fight. He does things that he normally wouldn't. And even Tamari and Kankuro talk about it. He just doesn't fight like he normally would. Even Tamari and Kankuro comment on it. I can get.
In what sense? He's more reckless or something like that?
Yeah, something to that effect.
I mean, what about if I were to counter by saying that the more reckless he is, the more he's basically he's sacrificing technique to gain more physical amps. Cause that's basically the way that.
Not necessarily, because it's just he's relying on brute strength rather than skill, more or less.
Yeah, but we know the reason why Gaara was getting so mentally traumatized was because of Shikaku, right? That's basically the only reason for it, right? So I'd say the more mentally distraught he is, the more reliant he is on Shikaku's chakra. And we know that Shikaku's chakra is obviously greater than Kid Gaara's chakra. So
well,
I'd
he
say
doesn't
that
really use Shikaku's chakra at this point. And he's actually mentally distraught because of his like mother. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, but
On the sand.
he gets more mentally distraught over time though. Like over the course of the Chunin exams, he got more like mentally like the beginning of the Chunin
Oh
exam.
yeah, he's going batshit crazy, obviously.
Yeah, like he's down bad basically. So that's why my point's gonna be that at the point when he fought Lee, he was less mentally distraught than when he fought Sasuke, right? And basically the point I'm trying to make is that sure he was fighting more reckless, like Kankuro and Tamari comment on it and stuff like that. But I'm saying that he's sacrificing his technique, which he barely even has anyway, for brute strength. That's basically the only point I'm trying to
So
make.
you're just saying like rather than like Lee being slightly faster, it's just like their like base Lee is relative to base Sasuke.
Basically relative to base Sasuke.
Yeah,
And
based
speed.
off like rather than just being faster, he's relative.
Yeah, basically.
Sure. So are you aware that like just the first gate is a 24 times amp?
420. No, I've never heard anything like that. Can you send that?
Yeah. So it's stated that that the Lotus uses chakra to forcibly override, like enabling the user to draw upon strength that's dozens of times his usual level. And you know the Lotus, right? Opens like when you go into or when you use the Lotus, you like go into the first gate. Essentially.
Yeah.
That's what it's talking about. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's just saying like the first gate is like dozens of times your normal level.
Okay.
So the bare minimum would be like 24 times.
So you're saying that first gate lead would be enough to take out Sasuke, basically?
Essentially, like based off where it's at right now, yeah, he just kind of like blitz and just like beat the shit out of Sasuke.
Alright. So this is in character, or they're like bloodlusted?
It'd just be like standard battle assumptions, so like going for the kill.
Alright. So my thing is, we know that it takes time for Lee to power up into the gates and stuff like that. So why wouldn't Sasuke just take advantage of that and Sharingan and like Genjutsu or something like that?
Well, first of all, right, it actually doesn't take too long. So if Lee and Sasuke are just relative in terms of like their base, Lee is able to go into the first gate like during a fight, like just mid move, because he uses the Lotus. He has to go into the first gate like to use the Lotus. He has to power up to go into like the third and shit.
Yeah.
But he can use gates like while he's like mid fight or like while he's mid movement. He does it with like the fifth gate too. He goes like he's like fifth gate, and then like his body's like breaking apart and he's like falling down. Yeah, so like he could use the gates like in a movement. So if they're like just boxing, he can just like first gate like punch like speed blitz Sasuke real quick, punch the shit out of like the back of his head and like kill his ass.
Okay. Alright. So my thing is, right? So basically Lee's a close range fighter, right? So Sasuke does have the ability to keep his distance due to like fire release and all that, right? So my thing is Sasuke's a way more technical fighter than Lee. So he would wait, you don't agree with that statement or?
Well, no, I don't think that matters. I don't think that's gonna like overcome a 24 times like gap in terms of speed and strength.
All right, so base Sasuke relative to base Lee.
Yeah.
And I believe at the time he only had one Tomoe open, right?
Something like that.
Was it one or two? I think it was one.
I believe it was one.
Yeah. All right. So I'd say with that plus the curse mark amp, which is a 10 times, it would be more than enough.
Well, he's not able to use the curse mark in Chunin exams. We know if he tries to use the curse mark, he like becomes incapacitated.
Didn't we see him use it against that Sound Ninja when he like replicated the
okay,
that we did?
Yeah, that was after like they sealed it up and shit. That's after like Kakashi did the seals and
shit.
Yeah,
but even after they sealed it up, he uses it against Gaara shortly after.
Yeah, he uses in the forest. It comes out, right? We know it only comes out also like when he's completely out of chakra. But when it does come out, he like falls on his face because he tries to like use the Chidori and he like falls on his face, and then Sakura has to like heal him up on the tree limb.
Damn. Okay, so base Sasuke relative to base Lee, first gate 24 times amp, and that's not even counting all the other amps he gets from the other gates.
Yeah. He would just kind of like blitz and like
Shit.
Yeah.
Fuck. All right. So if I were to say the one Tomoe Sharingan, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know that it gives them a sense of precognition, right? And it
Mm,
also,
well, to an extent, but it's not gonna. Well, like you know the scene where like Lee is like blitzing Sasuke at the beginning of the Chunin exams, and
when they
Sasuke's
were
like,
fighting and like the
y-
entry shit.
yeah, and and Lee's like, even though like you can perceive me, like your body can't react fast enough.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so like it boosts your perception, but not necessarily like your
Reaction
reaction
speed.
speed.
All right. So then my counter argument to that would be if he could perceive him, then he had the ability to put him in a genjutsu.
Well, maybe he can I don't think he could perceive like Lee 24 times faster than him. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but even if he could perceive him, right? Um,
Yeah.
do like performing a genjutsu is still like an action, right? So he would have to be
Mm.
able to react to do that action.
Okay, that's fair. Man, I'm not trying to take 2 L's in a row, nigga. Damn. Chill out, PoundTown.
No,
Damn.
that's fine. You're doing good in the other debate.
Shit,
This
I'm
one's
gonna
just
just
kind of
concede
like
then.
easy. Like it's really easy to argue for Lee.
Damn, I always thought it was easy to argue for Sasuke. I'm gonna just concede then.
Okay, GG.